Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast, where we break mental health stigmas through conversations. I'm your host, Nat, and we dive into topics about trauma and how it impacts the nervous system. Yet we don't just leave you there. We share insights and tools of self-care, meditation, and growth that help you be curious about your own biology. Your presence matters. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. Help our community grow. Let's get into this. Oh, and please remember to be kind to yourself. Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast. I'm your host, Nat, and today we are with Madelaine Weiss, who is going to share with us her book, the reason why she wrote the book, and a little bit about herself and what she has to offer to people. So, Madelaine, could you introduce yourself to myself and the listeners and let us know a little bit about yourself?
I don't know if I ever said this before on a podcast, but I'm going to say it here and now, which is I help people make their dreams come true, and that's not really my formal bio, but I just want y'all to know that things can be better than we sometimes think they are. I don't know, Nat, which book you're referring to. I know that I talked to you about my kids' book.
Yeah.
But we also have my
Okay.
one for adults, which kind of syncs a lot with what I just said, because the process of this is how people get from meh to great in their lives. And that's what I mean by making their dreams come true. Sometimes dreams they didn't even know they had. So let's see. I am a Harvard trained, licensed psychotherapist, board certified, this is a mouthful, board certified executive career and life coach with an MBA who helps people to find more freedom and fulfillment and satisfaction and success and just kind of flourishing in their lives.
I'm going to look forward to this conversation. I'm already intrigued and have some questions already in mind.
Oh, goody.
Before we dive in, will you join me in a mindful moment so that we can ground ourselves?
I would love to. What a gift.
And for the listeners, as you always hear, safety first. Please do not close your eyes if you need your visual, yet the other prompts you're able to follow through with us. So, Madelaine, I'll ask you to get comfortable in your position. And if it's safe to do so, I'll ask you to gently close your eyes. And you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to try and control your breath. You're just going to be aware of its rhythm, allowing it to guide you into your body. Now, there may be some sensations or feelings coming up. And that's okay. Let them come up. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop deeper into your body. Now, there may be some thoughts or to-do lists that have popped up in your mind, and that's okay. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, creating space between the awareness and the thoughts, and dropping even deeper into your body, allowing yourself to just be. Again, more thoughts may have popped up. Gently bring your awareness back to your breath, beginning again, creating even more space between the awareness and the thoughts, and dropping even deeper into your body. Completely releasing and letting go, being in the space of just being, observing. Now coming into your senses at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while still staying with your breath. How's your heart doing?
My heart is grateful to you for that. I was thinking there's a morning meditation that I do every morning, and I love the prompting on this meditation. However, at the end, he says something that is so funny. He says something like take 3 breaths, or something about the breath until you come back into the room. And I'm thinking, what are you supposed to do about breathing after you're back into the? I don't know. I just think that's kind of funny, but the whole thing is so wonderful up to that point. He meant well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Sorry.
just help people to just come back and remember that they're in this state of the space between stimulus and response, and that they can still bring that in their awareness. Their eyes don't just have to be closed in that. Yet
You
our
sound like
monkey,
Viktor Frankl.
yeah, I take from the great wise ones of lived experience of trying to explain what we're bringing people into because it's not an intellectual thing. So it can be very challenging sometimes to articulate. So that's why I bring people into a mindful moment, because then they're like, what the heck is this dimension? I didn't know anything about this. Like, what is this? It's
It
like,
was
yeah,
lovely.
yeah,
And the reason I told you that anecdote is because I noticed that conversely, you told us to stay with the breath. So that
yeah,
seemed important to me, given that it's easy to make the mistake of saying that in a different way. So anyway,
yeah. To because that's our tools. It's the freest tool that you have. Yet when we're activated and the nervous system's dysregulated and there's a bunch of wounds and emotions that are coming up that you don't want to feel, to access your breath to help feel and let go, and integrate and process. It's like, oh, I don't know what that thing is, and no, and it's like, but the breath is your sail that helps you ride those tsunamis. And that's why it's a practice. There's no perfection in this, and that's why we always need reminders too of and why we need radical compassion. So
and
my
given
question,
that the mind, I was just going to say that I'm turning my ringer off because I forgot to do that. I was just going to say that given that the mind wanders 70% of the time, what you just did is a godsend.
yeah, yeah.
Very helpful. Thank
Um, and I introduced it in my podcast like over a year ago, and I was a little timid to do it because dead airspace on a podcast, you might lose people. Yet in a world where we keep telling people to meditate, it's like, well, why are we not actually modeling it and inviting it in our interactions so that people can see what power there is? A lot of people have the wrong definition around meditation. They think it's going to shut off their mind and make everything go
you. I
zen. And
know.
it's like, actually, no, it's going to bring you into reality and do a check in to see what needs to be felt and processed that you're ignoring. Actually, be there for yourself.
Yeah.
And you can get into that center. People hook into my nervous system. So that's why they can get into that sense of
Mm,
space. Yet it's also recognizing it's not me that's doing it. Your nervous system, you can do that on your own also. It's just that you've been shown a way that, oh, this is possible for me. And it's, yeah. Yet it
yeah.
just takes practice to understand your nervous system and disarm those defense mechanisms that well, I call ego, that are protecting you from vulnerability and from the self. So you mentioned that you were from Harvard and you mentioned some big titles of board certified and all
I
this
know.
stuff.
It
So,
sounds.
yeah, and I'd like to ask you what got you into that?
I could tell you another story.
Okay.
It was actually on the day of 9/11. It was actually back that far. I was taking I don't know what degrees I already had, but I was taking a graduate level intro course at Harvard because I was thinking of parlaying that into on the road to a PhD which I had already gotten accepted to for Harvard and turned down, and that's a whole other story. But I raised my hand. You're going to love this, Nat Nat. I raised my hand and I said to the teacher, I notice that you use brain and mind interchangeably. And I'm wondering if you could unpack that for us. And the teacher got a little huffy with me and said, well, I'll tell you what, why don't we just take your brain out, put it on a slab, slice it up, and see what's left of your mind? I know, look at your face. So at the end, I went up to him after class and I said, I'm so sorry. I could tell that you did not appreciate my question. And I'm really sorry for having raised that. And he said, and this is the answer to your question. And he said, that's okay. You have epistemic hunger. So I had to run home and look up epistemic hunger because I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, could you tell me? Because I'm like, what is this academic word now?
Yeah, it's hungry to learn. So when you ask me, what are all these degrees about? Different people have different ways of like coping with life struggles. And I think mine has always been that. Like if I just like learn enough, somehow I'll be able to handle whatever it is. So I always like would run and I'm driving ChatGPT crazy. And ChatGPT is like so polite, but I'm constantly this question, that question. And in my yearbook, there's a picture of me with my hand up in high school saying it, and it says, oh, Madelaine's eternal questions. So this is not new. And that happened way before and I studied, which is not even on my resume, Advaita Vedanta for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So just like he said, hungry, just really hungry. And I'm assuming it's for problem solving purposes, but maybe not. Maybe it's just nature. Maybe it's just my nature. But anyway, that's what comes up for the question. Yeah.
I think, sometimes from my own experience, what's lacking sometimes in, the mental health with like, psychotherapy or psychiatry is the curiosity part. Yet it seems like your curiosity has been
Off the
untethered
chart. It's off the
and
chart.
you've been wanting it to find out all kinds of crevices and places and stuff.
Everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's quirky.
No, not at all. You're honoring yourself. You're honoring yourself and you're feeding into what is needed. I want to ask, you gave us the privilege of being the first time saying that you help people with their dreams, that you put it in very simple terms.
It's on my Instagram profile, and I noticed it the other day, and I thought, I actually put that there. So that made it fresher in my mind, but it's not routinely. If somebody asks me about my background or what I do, I don't routinely say that. So yeah.
Yeah. What does that look like?
For them?
Yeah.
So I one day said to myself, and I told you how varied my background is and my range of curiosity, we'll call it, is. So one day I said, God, these people that I'm working with are all doing really great. And then I said, what are you doing? Like, I could be pulling any old kind of tool out of my toolkit is packed with all kinds of stuff, like from soup to nuts, because of all that curiosity, like brain science and evolutionary psychology and Advaita Vedanta and psychodynamic psychotherapy and all this kind of stuff. So it's all in there. And if you work with me, I'm sitting there with all of that. And based on the interaction, who knows what I'll pull out when, but I just thought, like, what's happening here? What's actually happening? So I laid out all my cases and I like sort of sat back and did like a Zen thing, like, and it came to me that there's a process that people go through. And even though they're all different, age, ethnicity, occupation, you name it, there's this process they all go through.
I love that you're finally allowing yourself to be seen.
Hmm. What prompted that?
Because you brought out the simplicity of being empowered, of honoring the gift that you have rather
Hmm.
than doubting yourself. Because academia always berates that you're not good enough, and too much confidence can be not
Oh,
well received
I
at
should
times.
I should add, you're right. You're right about the too much confidence is, and when I test like on the Myers-Briggs or tests like that, they say I have this kind of vision that could come off as arrogance, and I need to be careful about that. But I want you to know it wasn't always like this. I didn't know until about 20 that I was even like, let's say, smart. I didn't, which is why I responded to you when you said that. Like, how does she know? So you have a knowing because I, after my father died when I was 15, I was lucky that I graduated high school.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it wasn't always, I didn't always have this confidence and I didn't always have this level of performance. I was pretty shaky as a kid, as I recall.
Yeah. How did you find the safety within yourself?
I started getting feedback. I put I put my neck out there, you know. I kind of clawed my way into college. They rejected me the first time. And I made an appointment I went on this cruise and met these people, and I told them that I had just gotten rejected from a state school. And they said, well, you can't let that stand. You have to go tell them. So I made an appointment with the dean and I walked in and I sat down and I started bawling. And he said, all right, all right, all right. Because I was a transfer student. I was taking a smattering of courses somewhere else without really matriculating. And they said they weren't taking any more transfer students. And my high school transcript was not that impressive. So, but they took me and I said to myself, okay, I have to get a 4.0 here. So I did, and I was in an honors program. And they said something that when they wrote my reference afterwards, they said something like, we doubt that she even knows how brilliant she is. And that was the first time I heard that word. Talking to me,
Is that me?
me, you know?
Yeah. So I have this question. If your pain could speak, what would it say?
Oh, you know what? I can answer that. My pain would say, why can't you see what I see? Or why won't you see what I see? That's what my pain would say.
And what is it seeing?
Um, I see I see differently than a lot of people. And in fact, I'm like 2%, what is it? 2% of the general population and 1% for women in the type of vision that I have. I'm not going to tell you specifically
Mhm.
because it's things going on in the
Yeah, yeah,
world,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we don't want to go there, I don't think.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, and so that's it's a hard place.
Okay.
You know, I can see what other people see and even how it makes sense to them. But if they saw what I saw, they might feel, and in fact, in this book, I'm going to show you a picture of it. I made a really big deal about that for the kids. I wanted them to know that everyone's point of view. Do you know the elephant story?
Tell me.
So the elephant story, as I start telling you, you might know it, is blind men, and they bring an elephant into the village, and they tell the men to describe what an elephant is, but they're blind, so they can only do it by feel. So one of them feels the trunk and says, "Oh, an elephant is like this, like a tree trunk. This is really long thing." And then another one says, "No, it's not. It's the one holding the ear says it's flat. It's totally flat." And then someone else says, "No, it's this like skinny long thing." And they fight like crazy with each other because they're so sure they're right. And they are, as far as they can, quote unquote, see. They're all right. No one's wrong for what they can see. But we can't see it all.
Mm-hmm.
No, I always like to tell people these numbers. You ready for some numbers? So there are 6 times 70 million zeros. Fathom that. I can't fathom that. 70 million, I don't even know, 70 million zeros, bits of information in the universe. Out of those, 11 million bits of information get sent from our senses. You were talking about the senses to our brain every second. And out of that, the conscious mind is aware of 50 bits of information. So every time I say that, I then say, so anybody who thinks they know anything is sorely mistaken, because none of us is playing with the full deck.
No.
And so, like by nature, by nurture, by your upbringing, by your genetic makeup, whatever it is, we don't all see the same thing. And there's so much to see, and we can't possibly see it all. So the mind doesn't want to feel crazy. So the mind makes up a narrative, and it thinks it's true.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I believe, my narrative is the true one, and yours is ridiculous. And that's how we are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we really are in these times.
Oh
And
gosh.
right?
So
And it doesn't appear
polarized.
to be getting better.
No.
I think what happens is that people get more entrenched in their, we'll call it dogma, meaning like, you know, they're locked into this is the way it is. The more threatened we feel. And there, you know, are so many different kinds of environmental external threats right now that that's my 2 cents on why I think it's getting worse and worse.
Yeah, it's a lot of dysregulated nervous systems. And when a nervous system is dysregulated, it's looking for safety. So it's going to want to create certainty. And if that narrative or that story feels certain, it feels safe. So I'm going to bite on that and I'm going to keep it as truth. And anything that comes around that parameter, that is a threat to take away from my feeling of safety and certainty, even though there is no such thing as control, yet the mind needs to have this illusion of it. And there's also lacking critical thinking in a society that, you know, you get chastised of asking questions like you did at the academic. Can you tell me what's the difference between a brain and mind? So because one's physical and one's kind of intellectual, you get chastised for asking these questions. Just do as you're told and just figure it out. Where it's like, we need critical thinking. We need to be able to challenge things. We need to know why we're doing certain things. Yet, you know, a lot of that curiosity, if you don't have the confidence, it gets stunted in you from a young age, especially in the education system. And then we wonder, well, why is society the way it is now? And it's like, well, did the education system really help support critical thinking? Did the education really help people to feel that they are good enough? Or did they always just really reinforce that you're not good enough because you didn't get the A's or the honor roll, or you didn't get this, or you didn't fit
Yeah.
into this crowd and whatnot? So it's, coming back into a home. I just wrote a podcast. Like, I love how the universe is, because I just wrote my monologue podcast script that I just did, that I'm going to publish next week, talking exactly about this. And, a lot of people think healing is on the outside, and it's like, no, you got to look at the mirror's edge, and you have to look at your own reflection. And sometimes you see it and you're like, "The heck is that? I don't like that." And it's like, yeah, it is. Look at your
You know,
BS.
I was working with somebody. Well, I'm still working with her um, for a while, and I was trying to convince her of everything you just so beautifully said, by the way. And I was trying to convince her that change is an inside job, and she never quite would go there with me. She's kind of resistant. I want to say maybe to authority, like I'm an authority or something. But about 2 weeks ago, and she's working in a government agency, so she's really, feeling very threatened right now.
Yeah.
But she's piecing how to cope together so well, like better than ever before, that she said to me, "I'm feeling happy." And then she said, of course, I mean, you were right all along that it has to come from inside her, no matter what the heck is going on out there. And now it's really going on out there for her. And it really was such a stark signal to her that even though that's going on out there, she managed to pull it off in here, which meant that it is correct that it's an inside job.
Yeah. Power of choice.
Mhm.
We don't think, if you don't start really feeling your emotions, you don't realize how much it hijacks your behavior. Because
Mhm.
all it is that, like, for me, how I explain it to my clients is, trauma is that space, and that space is where emotions come in, and it feels like a threat. So you don't feel safe to be in the space. You don't feel safe to feel the emotions, all the array of emotions. There's certain emotions that are allowed and tolerable because I've been told from the outside those are acceptable. Yet those dense, big emotions, reactive emotions, oh no, as a child, I've been told, don't cry, don't get angry, don't do this. I may
Angry is
have
the big
been
one.
traumatized in a significant experience, and I never got to speak about it with anybody. I never got to feel the safety in expressing what was going on and being seen, not just minimized and feeling like an inconvenience, or feeling like the perpetrator is getting all the attention, or whatnot there is. So coming back into that space, a lot of people are looking for a miracle cure, that, oh, I'm just going to take this and it's going to make it all perfect. Or there's this arrival, because the mind likes to arrive somewhere, that I don't got to keep predicting what's going on out there and whatnot. Yet the real work is to change the narrative that you think you predict everything, that the unknown and uncertainty is safe, and that you can still feel joy when you're feeling the fear. It's not about negating the fear. Your nervous system, a healthy nervous system, needs to feel fear. Yet when it's activated, acknowledge it, and also allow it room for processing. And then remember, how do I want to be in this moment? How do I want to feel? This doesn't always happen. Like, I know some listeners are gonna be like, yeah, yeah, yada, yada, nat, nat. Nobody can really do this. And I'm like, I get it. My friend just died in November. I
Oh, I'm
was in
sorry.
hospice. Yeah. And, I held her until her last breath, put her in the body bag, watched the cremation. Another friend died. My car was totaled. I didn't even total it. Somebody drove it and got into an accident. I get it. Was there a lot of emoting and crying and frustration and anger? Yeah. Yet I let myself feel those things to always remember, come back to a state, not just brew and think that that's my identity.
You sound
And
like you're headed for a breakthrough. Do you know the book about You're a Badass or something?
yeah, who is it?
Jen Sincero.
Yeah.
There's one thing she said that stuck with me, which is that when you're about to break through something, um, all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
And what you described,
Oh
my
yeah,
God,
I'm
that
like,
was
yeah.
in
Because even,
spades.
yeah, I was like today in the car dealership, I was like, I don't even want to be in this situation, yet I'm here. And I wanted to cry and be like, Natalie's not here and this person. And it was like, okay, I feel that narrative. I understand a bit of that, not a bit, that victim mode of that little girl that was traumatized and wasn't seen as a young child. Yet it's like, okay, yet we cannot reject reality. So your emotions are valid. The helplessness feels really yucky. Yes, you didn't cause this, and that makes it even more difficult to be in a space that you didn't create because you didn't get in the accident. Yet you will lose out on being able to hear the solutions and pivot to what is there for you. Um, so when I'm saying all this, it sounds like, oh, like it's so much. I've been using these tools for like over a decade. So when I can activate it on real time in certain places, this didn't come overnight. It came with a lot of warrior work of being honest with myself and feeling and understanding the depths of my own nervous system so that I could hold space for other people so that they can unleash their curiosity. And rather than not validate themselves, like, whatever you're experiencing is valid. And however you're seeing it is valid. Just remember, though, it's not the absolute truth. And
Right,
that's the most difficult thing to,
right.
you know, allow yourself to process and understand that.
It is a truth. Maybe not the whole truth and nothing but the truth. It's a truth. You're talking a lot about confidence, really, and how we get that. And I want to tell you that I had, believe it or not, because it's hard to believe, I think, I had flesh-eating disease.
Ooh.
Yeah, right? Who gets that? And I was in the hospital for 7 weeks. I had 10 trips to the OR.
Yeah.
And I was in occupational therapy for 6 months. I was out of work for 3 months. Then I went back part-time. I mean, it was a big, you know what deal.
Oh, yeah.
And so when people talk about confidence, it's not that you know everything. It's a feeling that I have from that more than anything else, I think. A feeling that whatever it is, I'll figure it out.
Mm.
Like I never had anything like that going on in my life before. Nobody I know did either. And people would say to me, I don't know how you're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
To come visit me in the hospital week after week after week. I don't know how you're doing this. And then they would say, it made you so strong. And then I would say, not exactly, because it didn't make me anything, but it forced me to have to dig inside for what is inside of us all. And I had to use it. But I wanted everybody to know this, it's in there, not just me, everyone.
Everyone has
And
it. Yes.
you don't know that until you need to use it. But what builds confidence is when we see ourselves putting one foot in front of the other and doing what needs to be done. And what people forget is that every single one of us has already lived through everything we've ever been through.
Say that again, because some listeners will be lost in that.
That's why I paused because I want that to sink in. Every single one of you, every single one of us has already lived through every single thing we've ever been through. And remembering that is confidence building. So I feel like now, if I can do that, what can I do? So even though I don't wish that on anyone, in a way, for me, it was that gift that I walk around feeling like, bring it on, whatever it is,
Yeah.
I'll figure it out. It's not whatever it is, I know how to deal with it. It's not that. It's whatever it is, I'll figure it out.
Mhm.
I'll take care of it somehow. Who knows?
Yeah. Surrendering. That's the epitome of surrender.
I love how you always put everything I say into real nice, plain talk like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what
Yeah.
I've worked on refining the language so that it's simple, so that people can really
It's so much more
understand
useful. Yeah.
and that I do the deep listening so that when I reflect back, it's like I am listening to you. So it captures and it reinforces the connection that we're all connected in.
You're very good at that. I
Thank
feel
you.
it. I feel it. Yeah.
Thank you. It's warrior work that I do, and building that confidence. And to come back to the strengths that people keep telling you, I think what it is that people may be seeing is that you have the courage to be in your vulnerability and not shut down.
Yeah.
Because
I
that was
mean,
a very vulnerable state to be in.
oh my God, you can't even imagine.
Well, I had lesions in my brain. I almost died. I was in the hospital for 40 days. So I get a little bit, my body
Well,
completely
that
shut
doesn't sound
down.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So I not
right up
a
there.
flesh eating. I get some of the pain because some of the lesions were in my meninges. They were in my brainstem and in my cerebellum and in my meninges. So I
That's
understand.
scary.
Yeah, it was. I understand the helplessness. I understand the physical pain. I understand the learning again how to live and try to figure out how to communicate with your body and not chastise a body that's putting you through all this stuff. And it's deep work that goes on internally.
I was very tender toward my body, I remember,
Nice.
because they skin grafted from my thigh to my arm after they gouged out all the dead. Yeah. And I remember looking at it and thinking, this looks like sushi. But I also thought it was like and I still remember, I also thought it was like a little baby. It was and I was tending it like that. Well, I had to because
Mhm.
yeah. But I wasn't I could see how somebody could feel without even realizing it, angry with their body for crapping out on them like that.
Mhm.
But I don't remember feeling that. I remember, yeah.
Because
Especially,
anger is protection. So to be
yeah.
vulnerable and be sensitive with it, anger would be that protective emotion that no, like I don't know how to feel this vulnerability and that intimacy and trusting in the unknown, trusting in, like, people talk about they have faith. They have no idea what really faith is. Faith isn't getting your way. Faith is being able to still have your heart open no matter where the experience is going,
Hmm.
which is very difficult and very challenging. And your heart will close because it needs to protect because it's overwhelmed and it's a lot of processing. Yet the work is to open it back up. And that's what faith is when you know you're going to experience pain. Like,
Hmm.
people think I'm going to pray away and I won't experience pain. And it's like, no, that's not what faith is. Faith
I
is
don't think that.
despite, I will still keep walking. And that is warrior work, especially when well, for you, 7 weeks, that's like debilitating physical pain that you went through. And it's
I
like,
can
oh,
still
okay.
feel it, you know.
Yeah.
I
Viscerally,
can,
your body still kept that memory. It doesn't want to repeat that.
I
And it
can
also
still
wants to
feel
keep
what
you
it felt
safe.
like when they brought me out of the recovery room and forgot about me and the pain med wore off. I could still feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember when they did a biopsy on my thigh and it was raw, so they didn't do any freezing because they said they wanted a clean sample.
Oh
So
my
they
God.
scalpeled 3 inches of my thigh muscle, and I still feel it.
I think we just lost all of your listeners. It's
So
getting
in the name of science, science does some wacky things, I tell you. Yet, in those experiences, there's a lot of resilience if you're willing to lean into it. There's a lot of gifts in that that you just shared. I am mindful of time. And so my next question that I want to ask you is, I want to bring you into a reflective question. I want to ask you to bring this awareness right now and go back to your 18-year-old self. And if you have 3 words to tell your 18-year-old self to carry you to the journey of right now, what would those 3 words be?
Can I have 5?
Yeah, of course.
What I'm just going to not filter it.
Yeah.
What popped into my head was, you're going to do great. That was the
Yeah.
blur.
Yeah.
Because at the time, I was a mess.
It's understandable. You're going through deep grief
I was.
and feeling
And
like an orphan.
Yeah. Yeah. How'd you know?
That's what
You're very
parents do.
good.
Yeah, parents do. And it's a very, the other side of love, we're not really taught about that. And until you experience it, it's like, oh, this is an abyss that doesn't have any grounding. There's no body to feel. Yet to navigate in that, it's a sense of like, oh, what is this place? Um, so to be in the dark and trying to find your way without people mentoring you and giving you guidance, significant warrior work. Significant warrior work. My next question is, what would your past self thank you for?
I know what it is. I'm trying to figure out how to articulate it. It's related to what I just said, for actually manifesting the potential. That's it.
What would
Because
your
I
Go ahead.
I could have not,
Of course.
but I did.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful.
I am too. I am too. What would your future self say about fear?
I'm giving you everything unfiltered here. My future self would say it was great how I had that licked. Yeah.
Okay. And now, if curiosity had a voice, what would it say?
Keep on enjoying me. I appreciate you too.
Hey. So now I know the listeners are like, okay, where can I find this wonderful lady? So can you let the listeners know where they can find you and what you have to offer and the titles of your book? Because I know visually you showed us, yet you didn't tell us what the titles were.
Oh, okay. So the kids' book is What's Your Story? Building Your Best Adventures in School and Life. I just did at the Malcolm X School here in DC. I just did a book club with 10 kids. It was delightful. I love them. They're wonderful. And I made them fill out evaluation forms that they didn't know were coming.
Nice.
And they were all amazing. The second book is the first book that I wrote is Getting to Great, G.R.E.A.T. It's that 5-step strategy. I told you they all go through a process. 5-step strategy for work and life based on science and stories. So I can make this really easy. On my website, you'll see like icons for both of those books that take you right to how you can get them. There are also a bunch of other buttons there. So there's a power breathing exercise that's not even 2 minutes. So there's a tab that says power breathe, and that's a 30-second mindset reset. And there, next to that, I think there's a blog tab, and there are hundreds of blogs on science and everyday matters, like sleep and food and money and all kinds of things. And those are all the chapters in the book, the adult book, by the way, too. I have it segmented like that. My favorite is managing your mouth, and it's not about food. It's about when to speak and when not to speak. So that's kind of fun. There's also a tab for online courses and a tab for a free introductory session. If any of the listeners want to connect with me and talk about themselves in any of these contexts, I would love to hear from you. Okay. So it's MadelaineWeiss.com.
Okay.
And the spelling is tricky. Are they going to have the spelling from you, Nana?
Yeah, there'll be a link in the show notes that they can click on.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for, the alchemy you've done in your life. You've taken some real impurities and you've turned them into gold, yet you didn't keep that gold for yourself. You're sharing it with others. So thank you for that, listening to the gentle nods within yourself and going in that unknown path and sharing all that you have with others. It's a real delight to be in your, energy field and your experience. So thank you so much.
Well, ditto, you are a gem. So thank you.
Thank you. Please remember to be kind to yourself.
I am.
Good.
Hey, you made it all the way here? I appreciate you and your time. If you found value in this conversation, please share it out. If there was somebody that popped into your mind, take action and share it out with them. It possibly may not be them that will benefit. It's that they know somebody that will benefit from listening to this conversation. So please take action and share out the podcast. You can find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Lift Oneself. And if you want to inquire about the work that I do and the services that I provide to people, come over on my website, come into a discovery call, liftoneself.com. Until next time, please remember to be kind and gentle with yourself. You matter.